Hello and welcome to week 3. Who am I becoming? So we are in July of 2026, and this is a really important month for shifting energies, for finding ourselves, for peeling back layers. And over the past couple of weeks, we've been exploring conversations that we experienced during these times. So in episode 1, we asked what has become impossible to ignore. And sort of over the last few weeks, it's synchronicities, signs, paying attention to conversations, words, what's going on around you. And of course, I pay attention to my clients because sometimes my clients reflect back to me things that I need to learn or to hear. And so I see what the pattern are within my clients. Then in week 2, we explored why we keep repeating certain patterns, and we're finding out that these were protective barriers that we were using to guard ourselves or to keep ourselves safe, and realizing that these barriers, these patterns, are no longer in alignment with who we are. And familiarity and alignment are two very, very different things, and sometimes we can mistake what's familiar for what's aligned. This week, or I should actually also say too, if you didn't see those episodes, go back and check them out. They're there for you for always. Who am I becoming? All right, I am always going to check my notes because my memory is all over the place, and this is the best way I can work through it. This can be one of the most uncomfortable places, okay, in the growth because we find ourselves standing between two versions of ourselves. We're struggling to fully realize who we are becoming, and we're having a hard time letting go of who we used to be because that was familiar, and familiar is safe, and safe is predictable, and it's safe, right? And now we're waiting to explore on how to settle into that person we are meant to become. And that is the struggle because sometimes stepping out into the unknown, we don't really know where we're going, how we're doing this, and it's unpredictable and unsafe, and we're retreating into old protective patterns, right? And now we're recognizing, oh, this is what I did to protect myself. And if I'm protecting myself, am I doing it because I don't feel safe? Am I doing it because I'm afraid or I'm anxious? Am I doing it for other reasons? But knowing the patterns that we use to protect ourselves allows us to sit differently and say, maybe this is time to make a different choice. So, whether we are ready and prepared for the shift that's coming or the changes are going to come unexpectedly, we are now in a period this week coming forward is really starting to amp up that who am I becoming? Because we have no choice. This is going to happen. The tree teaches us growth is less about being something or someone different. And I really like this part, especially in the Tree of Life healing system, is because it asks us, the tree asks us to expand and evolve beyond what we thought possible. We do not have to erase what we know, where we've been, or our experiences, but we are allowed to grow from them. So rather than taking our hurt, hiding it, and growing around it so that it's buried deep and then it erupts later, we have to go back to it. We sat with it, we understand it, and now we get to move forward and allow ourselves to grow in ways through that challenge, through that pain, and we can expand and evolve beyond anything we thought possible. So, in the philosophy, we grow, we navigate, we live with the Tree of Life healing. One of the reasons I love using the tree as our guide is because it reminds us that every season remains a part of the whole. So the winter stays with the spring stays with the summer stays with the autumn. All parts of the tree matter. All parts of the tree resonate within it. So if it's a really harsh winter, the summer leaves have a really hard time blooming. If it's a really drought filled summer, the winter, the sap doesn't move the same way. So all of them are connected, just as all of you is connected. And if you had this past childhood or teenager time or young adulthood or an experience at any point in your life that threw you off, it changes the chemistry of who you are, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And the tree isn't asking you to let go of any of that. The tree is actually saying, what if we allowed this to be a part of who we are, rather than resisting it or pretending that it's something we're not? What if we grew with it? A tree never removes its previous rings. I really want to read this. I highlighted it here. A tree never removes its previous rings in order to continue growing. Every season, every challenge, every year of drought or abundance becomes a part of its strength. You have never failed. You've been given the exact lessons you needed in order to grow into the true beauty and true power of your own persona. And so, who you were 5 years ago isn't a wrong place to be, wasn't wrong, and it's a part of who you are, who you were 20 years ago. No need to be ashamed of it. Those versions carried you here, and you were the best you could be at each of those stages. Knowing better is doing better, but it doesn't mean that you did wrong. If you did the best you could with the information you had at the time, then you learned exactly what you needed to learn. And where you are now, as you continue growing and evolving and expanding, you can integrate that into who you are. And this is why it's about who am I becoming? Growth expands our capacity to become more and step fully into ourselves. So, for as scary and intimidating as growth is, it allows you to challenge the status quo. It allows you to challenge your comfort zone and then be able to expand and evolve outward. So, what feels uncomfortable goes beyond change and towards realizing that the identity you've carried for years no longer reflects who you're quietly growing into. This is the challenge to realize that who you were and who you're going to be are very different individuals. And I know for myself, I've gone through a period of time where there's parts of me that I miss, and there's parts of me that I mourn for, and there's parts of me that I'm grateful have led me to this moment in time. And I'm glad to be here even through some of the pains, but to realize I don't have to hold on to them anymore. We spoke about in week one familiarity being comfortable and mistaking familiar for alignment. So this week reminds us that when we walk through the journey of healing, we hold space and learn to recognize that familiarity and alignment are not the same thing. They're not at all. So understand what is feels safe and familiar might be the cage that is holding you back, and to ask yourself, what is it that is having you attached so tightly to what is familiar? So, the universe, God, Creator, Spirit is asking us to release the old relationship we have with ourselves before we begin to build this new one. And in this in between space is incredibly, it's discombobulating and it's uncomfortable. And when I start to talk a little bit about the astrological energy, it kind of makes sense because as we're moving into these new energetic signatures over the next few weeks, this is what's allowing us to make these changes. Okay. So, building around old wounds trap, right? Trap the emotions within, and learning to release the wound, then grow, grant space to learn from the lesson, learn from the old part of ourselves without trapping our younger self within. You know, all that go back to when you were 5, talk to yourself when you were 20. We're just releasing all of these old wounds. It's like, a trapped bubble in the tree. I would even say and go so far as like a nail. If somebody stuck a nail into the tree has to grow around the nail. But if we remove the nail at any point, the tree still acknowledges the wound, but it can then close the wound and grow differently. Same for us. So when we navigate, this is the fun part. As this lesson is being shared, the current sky, okay, beautifully reflects this conversation. It doesn't matter whether you're watching this now during the signature or if you're watching it years or months from now. It is really to understand that astrology is not an active player to create your growth. Astrology just simply, it helps us to recognize the seasons that we're moving through. So it's not astrology is doing this, so therefore I have to do that. It's more like this is allowing you to navigate the way you want, just sort of following the light. And I mean, there's so many options for you to take. Astrology simply helps us recognize the seasons we move through, and I want to share some of the important energies in the sky. So this week, um, as we begin, so we've got a very beautiful Venus in Virgo conversation going on with Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. We're all right before the day before the new moon this week. And really, with Venus, a lot of times people associate, especially in trendy astrology, as love and what you love and how you want to be loved. And it has truth in that to some point, but Venus is also a hidden financial planet. Venus is also a part of the throat and the throat chakra. So this is really an important time to pay attention to what our hands are doing, what our throat is doing, what our voice is doing. What are we hearing? What are we speaking? What are we bringing into ourselves? What are we telling ourselves? What stories are we bringing in? And of course, Uranus being a higher octave of Mercury, Uranus is asking us to embrace sort of the universal language through a different point of view. And then we get into Venus and Neptune's conversation, which is a little bit more, well, they're all kind of difficult. because it's almost like this Venus and Virgo energy wants to do it a certain particular way. Like earth signs are very systematic in their doings. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and so it's conversations with Uranus, and Uranus is asking it to break free, to expand its mind base and its knowledge. And the beauty is Virgo and Gemini are both ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is still in retrograde for another week in Cancer. And what that allows us is to bring it inward, to ask us, what do we value? How do we value it? What are our dreams? What do we take from our dreams that we want to bring into reality? What changes need to be made in how we speak, how we listen, how we embrace, right? What matters here on the inside? And Venus also sits in the heart chakra as well. So it's about having compassion, speaking compassion for oneself, speaking our needs and our desires. And we're talking about a financial planet here. This is about manifestation. Venus, oh, she will give you that which you desire if you're willing to work with it. And so this allows us to move forward into the new moon, realizing that everything that we've kept within, maybe they're dark secrets, maybe they're secrets that you've always wished were true, but never really fully blossomed to the surface. This is the moment where Venus is igniting the soil so that when the moon hits her newest point, the seeds that are already within you are touched and begin to grow. So, what is it you truly value? What values do you want to bring to the surface? How are you transforming in your beliefs, in your functionality, in that which you desire most? Maybe something that stayed hidden for years. So the new moon's on July 14th, 21 degree, 59-minute Cancer. And then after that, later in the week, Uranus and Neptune and Uranus and Pluto begin their confirmation. And this allows, or confirmation, conversation, and this is in preparation for Jupiter coming in to grab the basket. So it's almost like Venus has her little basket handle before Jupiter comes in and really expands upon it. And this is why this week is so important to have that internal reflection of what we value, how we value, reasons for valuing it. What do we believe in, our beliefs, and voicing it, even if to ourselves. Venus in Virgo is great for journaling because it helps bring that, earthy conversation out. It can attach the mind and the heart through the voice and the hands and the expression. So this is a really, really good week to sit with what you are valuing, what it is that you really want to truly plant within yourself. And we live. Our bodies recognize these moments before our mind can explain them. So honestly, you might be already seeing this over the last few weeks. You might be wanting different conversations, feeling these different conversations, protecting your energy more, like, just protecting it. You're not sure why, but you just want to protect it. Speaking with greater honesty. This is a really big thing. Virgo is one of the few signs that does value truth and honesty. It's easier to work with. Feeling less willing to apologize for your needs, or how about realizing that certain environments no longer feel nourishing? This is really about the awareness and letting go of spaces that no longer protect us. So the body can whisper discomfort of this energy. It comes through the throat mainly. So if you have a scratchy throat or something's caught in your throat, this is a very important bridge to acknowledge because again, the heart and the mind, the throat is the middle ground. So watch the words you speak to yourself, the truth you choose to share with others, and the courage to say, this is who I am now. Growth is about allowing your voice, your choices, and your daily lives to reflect the person you are becoming. Speak your truth, live your truth, grow with your truth. This energetic nudge is to move beyond feeling like an imposter in your own life, in your own body, in your own work, in your own relationships, etc. We all feel this tug, yet the tug is unique to each of us. So the tree reminds us that it's a lifelong journey. You don't have to have all the answers today. And of course, I'm going to be continuing these episodes. The body reminds us that every experience leaves an imprint that can guide us towards greater awareness. So the body's always whispering to us if we just sit still long enough at times to listen to what our body says. We are asked to be invited into one simple question. Who am I becoming? Who has quietly been growing beneath the surface all along? So I love this and I love, like, thank you for joining in on this conversation. I will have a Substack article posted up that you can go to read a little bit more about it. And of course, if you come to the Soul to Soul Living Tree Journey, it's an absolutely free community to come into and join. We're going to have personal reflections, a small exercise to work with this energy this week. And that is all personal for you to go through at your own time and your own pace. And this way you can really capitalize the energies as you move through. I'd like to say it's a challenging time, but change is neutral, and challenge can be whether it is easy or difficult to accept. So I would love to see you there. And of course, if you have any questions, ask away. And remember to subscribe and click on the bell for notifications to have new videos posted. So thank you very much for being on this journey with me. And I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful week.